Good morning to you. It is Tuesday, April 1st, April Fool's Day at 8:43 a.m. I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday and the day before. The transfer portal both giveth and taketh away for your Boilermakers. And I'm going to deep dive into what I have grown to know about Purdue's new big man, Oscar Cluff, why this move makes sense, why it makes you scratch your head a little bit, just the whole era. And I'm not going to be April Fooling today. So just heads up on that. I know there's some pretty good stuff already going around on Twitter. Tis the season. So I'm going to stay away from that. But before I do it, let me thank the folks who, they didn't make my sweatshirt, but they make really, really high quality t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, really good stuff. Head over to homefieldapparel.com, enter Boiled25 at checkout for 15% off your first order. And also, when you're at Purdue and you've just watched the new big man tear a lowly victim apart in December, what do? You jog down towards the fire station, then you turn left, you see the blue lights, and you go in, and you give Adam a hug, and you say, I'm home. I feel home. That's AJ's. You go there, they're going to treat you well. You're going to get a pint with a boiled sports magnet in the bottom on game day. You're going to get some cheese curds or some pretzels or some. They're not pretzel bites. They're pretzels. They're kind of a I don't know how to describe it. Mini pretzel loaf. I don't know. They're delicious though. That's what I do know. They're fried. They're salty and buttery. And you get a sandwich, burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. AJ's by the fire station. EatAJ's.com. So yeah, I did a little bit of research, so you didn't have to. That's really what I was. So if you've gone in and dug deep already about Oscar Cluff, you may know more than me, but if you haven't, you can listen along, and then you can look really smart around the water cooler today at your office. I'm going to tell you a little about what I understand about Oscar Cluff. Okay, so first off, let's before I dive into that, let's look at the portal taketh away portion. Of course, Brian Waddell, Miles Colvin, and Will Berg have all entered the portal. I think a lot of Purdue fans are upset about this. I'm not going to make it into anything more than it is. I think it's guys looking for a better opportunity. I think it's guys who are reacting to the counsel around them, people that tell them, yeah, maybe it's time for you to go on and do something else. I think it's lousy when you see a player that could have been something great not get there at Purdue because you really like the kid. And so I think that's the hardest thing about this is regardless of which player that you have a leaning toward, it feels to me like, especially in Colvin's case, there's more in the tank there. He could have done some better things because he's got such athleticism, such potential, and he just didn't get there. I'll go through each of those real quickly about what I think. So Brian Waddell, he got his Purdue degree. Congratulations. Good for him. I believe part of this is a personal reaction. He wants to be closer to somebody close to his life. And I think he's going to be, I think the transfer will take him closer to that person. This is my guess. I don't have any facts behind that. Just my understanding the situation. But he got his Purdue degree. He's a legacy. It's really rough. Purdue loses 2 legacies. The third legacy, of course, is Heidi and you have King too on the roster. But it's tough. It's tough to see a guy leave when he's a fan favorite. And Waddell's one of those guys. Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, the great thing about allergies is they're relentless. So it's blossoming time. So I get a little bit of that. Next up, Will Berg. Will Berg put in his time and he waited as Zach Edey dominated and dominated the minutes for the big man and Purdue's lineup. This year got his chance, and it didn't go quite as well as I think as anybody thought it would or hoped it would. Just because you play against the best player in America doesn't necessarily mean you become that, into that echelon. He's a good player. He looked really good versus High Point. I think that's when he lands. I think if he went to the MAC, for instance, he could be a real a force for a team. And I hope he lands nearby. That'd be good. I think he is loved around the Purdue circles. People like his family. His dad's a nice guy I've interacted with on Twitter. Wish him nothing but the best. Hope he finds a place where he can get more playing time, but clearly the writing's on the wall with him that he was not going to get as much playing time as he hoped. Both Burgess, of course, and Kluff will be in front of him, but that wasn't a done deal yet. And TKR, in a kind of a hybrid 4-5 role, ate up a lot of minutes. Caleb first took the minutes away when he was inserted in the starting lineup way back in December. So it makes sense. It makes sense that he decided to try to move on. And I think, of course, with Colvin, his dad and he both thought that there's a greener pasture out there. That's what the portal's for, regardless if you like it or not. I don't like the portal. I don't like this era. I don't like much of what's happening in college basketball, but I'm kind of living with it as long as I can deal with it, if I'm being real honest. But I'm upset to see Colvin go because I think he's a guy that he obviously had a role. At the end of the Houston game, he was in for 4 to 5 minutes because of his defensive prowess, his athleticism. He made an incredible play on an out of bounds play from Houston where he just went up like Rubber Man and grabbed a ball that looked like it was about 11 or 12 feet in the air and was quickly off the ground. That potential, that ability is a lot of Purdue fans really like the kid, but also seemed like a likable dude. I mean, never heard a bad report. He put in his time too, if we're real honest. Last year, he didn't play a lot. For a guy who really thought he'd have a substantial role as a freshman, that was hard. He took his medicine, right? Took his lumps, if you will, and then he came back. And his minutes grew, his role grew in importance, and he decided to jump into the portal. And so wish him well again. Hope those guys do great. If we're looking at, everybody always talks about comparisons with the NBA and stuff like that. It's dumb because NBA has structure that actually means something. They have contracts. They have tampering rules that are with fines that have real teeth. The NCAA has none of that, and until it has some of that, it's going to remain kind of a Wild West non-system. And it doesn't look like in these three there's any evidence of tampering or anything like that. But the NCAA needs structure badly, and hopefully after June, when the agreement is officially met, they can move on. And we'll see. In the meantime, we suffer through this garbage. So let's see. Okay, so Oscar Cluff is 23 years old, in case you didn't know. The transfer portal, this happens a lot, where guys are just older than other people. We've seen it as against Purdue, where really, really talented guards, specifically, you see a lot of older guards. People think Hunter Dickinson, for instance, there's a April Fool's thing going around today that he got a 7th year of eligibility. I think would only be, would it be a 6th? Because I think he had his, I think he's just had 5 straight. He and Edie would have been in the same class, but that is a joke. He did not get a year of eligibility, but don't put it past the NCAA to just roll over and allow it to happen either. So, but a 23-year-old big man, he's going to be 24 next year, is pretty noteworthy. He's 6'11", 260 pounds. He hails from Sunshine Coast, Queensland, Australia. And where his career started, he's a bit like Edie in this way. He's a tall guy. He's not 7 feet tall. He's not 7'4". He's not still growing. But he started basketball late. He started at 15. Before that, he played rugby and he was a swimmer. Let's see. The really interesting thing to me, because I don't understand this, was he played for he was a Division II representative. It's called Division II representative basketball with the University of Sunshine Coast, Rip City. It's a lot of words, but I believe it's, I don't know if it's a university and the university system is just younger in Australia. I got to plead ignorance here, but I thought I'd bring it to you guys. Maybe you guys can decipher what's happening there. Maybe you've spent time on the Gold Coast. I don't know. Regardless, he's played basketball at a relatively high level for a long time, but he hasn't played basketball for long. He's a guy that, with his size, with his athleticism, with his skill, he started going up the ranks pretty quickly. And a lot of Australian players, in case you don't know this, they scratch and grind and claw in America to try to find their way to get to the pros. And he's one of those guys. If you look at, there are a lot of guys that do it. There are not a lot of guys that reach his level. That's the big difference with him. According to On3, he was the number one player in the portal as of yesterday. He's no longer in the portal since he's coming to Purdue now. But it's a normal path for guys to jump around to try to find their way to success. It is not normal for them to get there. So very impressive though. So let's he played at Washington State, but let me go through his other parts of his career. He played it 2 years at Cochise College in Arizona. I think that's how you pronounce it. Not positive. He averaged 15 points, 9.8 rebounds a game there in Arizona. His second year was really, really noteworthy, where I think he averaged like 18.9 points and 11 or 12 rebounds, brought his average up. Then he went to Washington State. He only played 20 minutes a game at Washington State, so his numbers started dipping a little bit there. His rebounds went down to 4.4. His points went down to 7. He averaged almost a block a game, 1.2 assists. He's a pretty good passer, pretty good vision. Shot the free throw okay at Washington State, 66%. And then, of course, went to San Diego State this past season, where he kind of tore the league up. 17.6 points a game, 12.3 boards a game, 27, almost 28 minutes a game, 2.9 assists a game, shot the free throw really well, 78%, which Purdue fans will be heartened by that. Hopefully that average stays up there. At Cochise College, he was down in the high 60s again. So hopefully it's the high 70s. We'll see. He'll be in different environments. That's one thing. The stadiums, the arenas, the venues will obviously be a big difference from where he was last year in the Summit League. He was all Summit League first team. And he was all Summit League first team all defense, which I think Purdue fans are going to love. He moves really, really well. When you watch him on defense or offense, I think you'll be very impressed with his footwork, be very impressed with he has soft hands when he gets the ball. And he does some things that are really unusual. My buddy Ron Gable said he reminded him a bit of TKR. I don't see the TKR thing other than he does some things that are unconventional. But his game to me looks more Euro style, looks more like a FIBA type basketball big man. He goes underneath the opponent a lot of times. I don't know if he'll be able to get away with that as much in the Big Ten, just because he's going to be dealing with bigger bodies. One really fun factoid, and I've got a couple here, is he led the Summit League, obviously, with 12.3 rebounds a game. The really cool part is the second place guy in the conference with rebounds per game was 3 less per game. Really noteworthy on the glass. He was very good. And when I talked about Kluff about 2 weeks ago, I think 2.5 weeks ago, my son and I had done some research into who got the guys that we wanted to see if Purdue went out and got an enforcer, a player to play alongside TKR, a guy to plug in as first leaves. Who do you go and get? And so I talked about Kluff, and some of you guys remember that. And I am really pleased with this. I don't know what you call it. I'm really pleased that Purdue got Oscar Cluff. Purdue did it in a good way. Purdue basketball did it in a good way. Brian Newbert talked about how smooth of a transition this was, how this was something that was writing on the wall at some level, that Kluff was leaning towards Purdue, even though he announced he was going to Iowa State. Then Iowa State went out and got a 7-footer of their own. And so it's a question of, was the leaning so heavy that Iowa State said, we better go get a different guy? Or who knows? I don't know any of that. I think you'd have to get everybody in a room and talk about timing and calendar. But Kluff did, I think I don't know, maybe he canceled the Iowa State. It would make sense that he canceled the Iowa State meeting since he was already leaning towards Purdue when he was done with the visit. So regardless, Iowa State got their guy, Purdue got their guy. That's the long and short of it. He had 21 double-doubles this season. That's a noteworthy number. You're not going to find many guys in the nation with that number, regardless of league. And also, this is I think this is pretty amazing. 6 times this season, he had 20 points and 15 boards in a game. Pretty awesome. When I look at his game offensively, I compared him to Arvydas Sabonis. That goes a ways back. Dave from BS said Sabonis is now 60 years old. So me watching Sabonis play tells you how old I am. But Sabonis, by the time he came to America, when I knew Arvydas Sabonis as a player, his best years were behind him. So he got really crafty with his game. He passed out of the post a lot. He wasn't the quickest guy. Kluff is quicker. Kluff is not slow for a guy his size at all. But he's very clever with the way he plays the game. And I think he'll be a very good complement to TKR. Number one, TKR started drawing more and more double teams in the second half of the season, or final third of the season. And teams started figuring out he's really good offensively. And the bigger thing, the more important thing, is he is a bit of a rim protector in that he averages about a block a game, little under a block a game. He's got great wingspan. He's got very good footwork, and he cleans the glass. I think that is the biggest thing Purdue really needs from him. The other thing is, not all hope is lost for Jacobson. In fact, I would see Painter doing something akin to the way he handled Edey and Trey Williams in splitting their time 20 minutes and 20 minutes, almost down the middle. It would be right in Kluff's comfort zone, even though he played a lot, played almost 30 minutes a game at South Dakota State. But it would make a lot of sense. I would see, if I'm going to look into my crystal ball and guess, which I don't know anything, I'm going to say that I bet Kluff would be the starter right away. Maybe Jacobson grows into more minutes or a starting role and they swap at some point in the season, something along those lines. But I don't think either of them will ever be not playing unless one of them's injured. I just think they're both going to be very, very important. It's like a 1-2 punch of running backs that have a slightly different style, right? Jacobson's thinner. He runs the court really, really well. In case you forget, he has great hands. So they've got a lot of commonalities in that way, that they are both very, very skilled for very big guys. But their games are different. So when you try to approach them, they're going to have to do different things. Opposing defenses are going to have to think twice. Let's see. Sorry about the allergies. They are killing me right now. But there's always something with me. If you come here, you know that. You're going to come from my voice is not good to begin with. And it gets more unpleasant as we go on. Finally, one other thing I want to talk about with Kluff was competition. He played in the Summit League. Summit League's not the highest level competition, but he played some good teams. I thought this might be noteworthy to you. So I put the 4 teams of note that he played last year at San Diego State, since he was playing such a significant role. First one, McNeese State in the pre-con. Versus McNeese State, he had 14 points, 14 boards, a steal and a block. McNeese State, of course, your Boilers played them just recently. And we saw Purdue play very, very well on the glass versus McNeese State because of their lack of size. I think the biggest guy that plays a significant role at McNeese State is 6'8", number 23, if I remember correctly, kind of a good-spirited, bigger guy. Yeah, there's he and TKR had a fun battle. So I take that with a pinch of salt, a grain of salt, however you want to say. Next up, there's a team called Alabama. Purdue played them as well. Alabama defense is optional. We're real honest about Alabama. But versus Alabama, he had 21 points, 15 boards, and a block. Played very, very well versus one of the most talented teams in America. Are they one of the most talented defenses? No, not at all. But they are tall. They've got guys, of course, Uncle Cliff's on that team. So they have a Big Ten style center there, an unusual Big Ten style center, but he was a Big Ten center at one point. They also played Omaha twice. Omaha made the dance. That's why I picked them out. They led the conference most of the year. The other team was Saint something. They're a weird team that came up from Division II. They're forbidden from going to postseason, NIT or NCAA tournament. St. Thomas. But I wanted to pick Omaha specifically because they're a good team. They made the tournament versus Omaha, 17.6 boards, first time, second time, 25 points, 15 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. On a bigger stage, Kluff plays well. His team was not the best team in America, but he played great, and he rose to the occasion when the stage was bigger. I think that's the thing I took away from that. He seems like a really cool guy, like cool, calm demeanor, from what I understand, which might be exactly what TKR needs next to him. Just somebody say, it's all right. And he's a he is a grizzled veteran at his age. He's not a grizzled basketball veteran, like I said, only been playing since he was 15. But his demeanor, he seems like a really, really good guy to plug in at Purdue. Now, philosophically, what do you think about a guy who's a journeyman already in college? I can understand why you might have pause about it, but demeanor-wise and just from everything I hear, this is a good dude. He's going to be easy to cheer for, which Purdue fans, we're big about that, having a guy that has a good personality. We don't tend to hold our nose and deal with players, and instead we like to embrace them, and he's a guy that will be easy to embrace. I mentioned his mustache when I introduced you to him a couple weeks ago, or 14 days, 15 days ago, something like that. Sadly, the mustache is not his normal facial hair. I like the mustache. I thought there was potential to have the curly ends, but he's gone with a beard that looks a lot like Braden Smith's, if we're being really honest. Very full down in the jawline. So they look like mini me and big me, whatever you want to call it, right now. And I don't know what he'll have, but I do think Purdue fans are going to glom on to his personality, who he is. It's yet another non-American center, which is fun. Purdue's now had, of course, there's a big Canadian, if I'm remembering correctly, a Swede, and now an Aussie. And so that's a lot of fun. And I think there's some interesting things about the guy. We'll get to know him even more with time. But right now, I'm going to see what you guys have to say about Oscar Cluff. What you have to say about me struggling through allergy season. Appreciate you being here this morning and enjoying breakfast with me if you're doing that, or hopefully maybe getting a minute in without working. Also good. Also okay. Take a break. But you can tell the boss to pump the brakes a little bit this morning. My buddy John Harrell is the first one here. He says, "I love it when you cook breakfast." Yeah, I'm kind of an eggs and bacon type of guy, but when I make bacon, I do it in the oven. But eggs, man, I'm a whiz. You can ask my wife and kids, John, next time you see him. MHC says, "Good morning, early one today." It is an early one. I actually was ready to go with this last night, and instead of going with it, I did more prep work than I usually do because I thought it'd be better to do that. So I did some homework. I don't know if I swapped out. I hope I swapped out this thumbnail. If I didn't, I might not have. The thumbnail's awesome, in my opinion, but I might not have swapped it out, but I will after I get off here. I think I forgot to do that. No, I did it. Okay. My brain is awesome. It's great. It kind of works. G Miller 151 says, "I finally made a live one." Yes, it's a weird time. So many people that cannot make the live ones in post game, or when I do a 3 a.m. show, when I get back from Indianapolis after watching Purdue lose a heartbreaker. It's tough to watch those lives. During that live 3 a.m. show, I think it started at 2:45. If I remember correctly. I went to bed at 5, by the way, after the Houston game. And that's a problem on my end, that when I get wound up, I can't fall asleep. So I went to bed at 5 a.m. on Saturday, and I was absolutely rocked on Saturday day after I tried to get up at 8 and then 11. And then my wife was kind enough to let me sleep because of my hobby here. Took me deep into the wee hours of the morning, but I could not calm down. And I was hanging out with my buddy Ben Kolzinski at the Houston game. I bet he went to sleep before me. I bet he did, because he's a smarter guy than me. He's able to control himself. Cobra 317 says, "Your AJ plugs are Emmy worthy." Thank you. I love the place and I love the staff, so I appreciate that. I'm glad you think that, and you should try it out. If you haven't been to AJ's, please go. A couple people. I heard a great story from Adam, and I know this is further advertisement, but I think it's great. He told a story that a person drove an hour to go to AJ's to get something to eat because they watch this stream, and they were like, "I'm gonna go get some dinner at AJ's because I've heard so much about it." And I hope they were pleased with it. I love the place, but I tell you, the atmosphere and the people make it. Food's good, no doubt about that, but it's always the staff that makes a place really special, and that's it. Boiler Bugle says, "Would it make sense to say that Colvin is stuck behind Lawyer, and that Paint prefers a higher floor Fletch to a ceiling of Miles?" I think it's fair. I think it's fair because it looks to me like Paint wants to have Smith and Lawyer start every game of their careers. I think he wants to do it because I don't know if there's a precedent for that at Purdue. I'm sure somebody out there knows that, but to have two guys on the same starting lineup for 4 straight years is an incredible factoid. Those guys have not still missed a game. And I think Paint wants to see them go all the way through their career to start. Obviously, it takes minutes to have Fletch be on the court all the time. It takes minutes there. Remember, let's not forget, Paint tried Colvin in the starting lineup, and it did not go great for the team or for Colvin. That was in the middle of, he had a little bit of a swoon early in the season. He had a bigger swoon in February where he was struggling getting the ball in the basket, and even his defense fell off, I thought, a little bit in February. It came back strong, both. I thought he looked much more confident late in the season, but I think it's fair to say that that he's stuck somewhat behind Lawyer because there's only so many minutes to be distributed among the 2 and 3 position, right? Smith obviously plays every game, so many minutes. Hopefully Purdue can do something about that. Either use CJ Cox to drop Smith's minutes down to 35 a game. I mean, 3.5 less minutes would make a huge difference, in my opinion. Of course, there is a video circulating right now of Smith playing at the co-rec on the court 1. On the traditional court 1, and he dunks very easily after driving around a guy that I'm sure is a good basketball player. Probably played high school, because court 1 generally, back when I was there, was the jam. But he drives around and dunks really easily. A lot of people are like, where was this? Well, it's a little tougher to dunk in a Big Ten game when you drive, because there's always somebody big in the way. And also, I think Smith he can dunk pretty easily. I know it's something that people don't think is true because he's not the tallest guy, but his reach, his wingspan is incredible. Also, he's a lot better athlete than he gets credit for. And you saw it in the play that didn't get called to charge versus Houston. His feet are so damn quick, and he gets off the floor fast. But anyway, okay, that's a heck of a sidebar. Ben Goldzinski says, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. There we go. South Haven Boiler says, does Colvin to Butler make sense? I think it makes a ton of sense. Yeah, it keeps him close to family. I think it makes a ton of sense. The question is, and I don't think he's a guy that's going to be seeking top dollar in the NIL market. He comes from a pretty successful family. I think bigger for him and bigger for his dad and his family, the higher priority is to get him more minutes, get him more shots, get him a bigger role on a team. And I think he was nervous that next year he wouldn't have much more of an improved role. I think there was a chance. There's a real chance that Colvin would have a very similar year next year as he did this year, minutes wise. So I understand the perspective a little bit. But I also say there's even a bigger picture here. I mean, if you want to leave in 3, if you want to say, yeah, I want to go pro, you don't have the chance. I don't think he has much of a chance to be that guy. But if he loves Purdue, which his sister graduated from Purdue, his dad graduated from Purdue, I think his mom graduated from Purdue, you'd think maybe he'd stick around for 4. I know he loved Purdue. Every account I've heard of Colvin, he loved Purdue. So, yeah, okay, I don't want to dwell on this too long. Nate Dolan says, good morning, iced coffee with Kluff. That's a pretty good one. Didn't go that way. And I could go for iced coffee actually right now, but I'm just drinking water. Purdue's Frontcourt, TKR and Kluff. That is, so there's a weird internet phenomena that's happening. Phenomenon is the plural, right? That's happening right now is there's a lot of care being thrown Purdue's direction from fan bases on Twitter, from Illinois and IU and Michigan State and even UConn. They all care very much about how Purdue designs its roster and designs its lineups for next year. A lot of those people really putting their hearts into it and saying they know what's best for you. Here's what I would say. If you get into one of those discussions, which I won't do that. I won't talk to people I don't care what they think about Purdue, because everything they say is going to be laced with some of their internal, the things that make them think about basketball. I don't care about what they think about Purdue's lineup. I don't care what they think about Matt Painter. I really don't. So when they start talking about how is Purdue going to make this work? How are they going to have Kluff next to TKR? It makes complete sense. If you've watched Purdue, it makes complete sense. He's going to plug right in where first is right now. I think that's what he's going to do. He and Jacobson will blend in together. It's going to be great. I think it's going to be great. I think they're different styles of play. He's a lot different than TKR. I think one thing that's kind of cool is he does like to pop out and shoot. I think he only shot 5 or 7 threes. Looks really good when he does it. But maybe TKR or him maybe that can be worked into the offense. I think Purdue needed more dimension in their offensive sets this year. I think there was a lot of watching Smith, watching TKR, especially in those really bad final 10 games. So maybe you work something in where one of the bigs or both the bigs have the ability to pop out while the other one stays in. And I would see TKR being that guy because that puts Kluff closer to the basket to clean the glass if he misses and put it right back in. Also, the other thing about Kluff, the idea of having a guy that if you funnel him towards the lane, he can enforce a little bit better. I think that's a big deal. I think it's a really, really big deal. There's a lot of advantages to Kluff being part of the starting lineup next year. Let's see. Greg Manis says, hi, this keyboard on? Been a minute. Yeah, it's great to see you, Greg. It has been a bit. I'm sad that you've get rid of the fair weather moniker because it's so true with you. Good thing the Pack News broke yesterday. Pack News, because we all would. Oh, Nigel Pack, I got you. We all would have assumed it's an April Fool's joke. Yeah, Nigel Pack is seeking another year of eligibility. Yeah, there's a lot of funny things happening, aren't there? Cannon Catching's in the portal. Good on you. Go get it. Go get your thing. Find your special place. Sorry. Nate Dolan says, how will Paint handle TKR, Kluff, Jacobson, and Burgess? I think what you're going to see, I really believe it'll be split time with Jacobson and Kluff. And I think you may see Burgess come in and spell TKR maybe a little bit more. I don't know, but I do think there's minutes for all these guys. And I think a lot of bigs, like Burgess specifically, he couldn't stand for very long this year. Obviously, the shin splints were really rough at the end of the season, which is tough. But I think there's minutes for everybody in that group. I think Berg might have seen the writing on the wall before Kluff even was signed, and I don't know how signings work. Do they mean anything anymore? No, not really. You can sign and leave 5 minutes later. Yeah, but was there money involved? Yes, Purdue fans, naive Purdue fans, it's legal. There was money exchanged. I don't know how much. No one knows how much because that's not how it works. There's no transparency in NCAA basketball right now. But yes, Purdue used the NIL to bring Kluff in along with a great situation. Make no mistake, Kluff wants to go to the NBA. Or he wants to go play. He also says he wants to play in Europe. He says he wants to play in the NBA, but he also would play in Europe or play abroad, play Australia, if the situation doesn't work out in the NBA. His goal, though, is to get to the NBA. I think Purdue is a great platform to get there. Purdue's going to have tons of exposure next year. If Purdue gets one more part, do not be surprised. Purdue is ranked 1 to 3 in the preseason polls. And this year, it's not fool's gold. Like last year, I think they were ranked too high. I said that from the beginning. If you pay attention to me and you agreed, maybe it stuck with you. But I said Purdue. I thought Purdue was like 16 to 18 in America. As it turns out, they make the Sweet 16. They were probably the second to best. They're probably the 15th best team in the Sweet 16. If we're gonna be real honest, but they played up. They played really good ball at the end of the year. But I thought it was foolish to have Purdue down in a top 10 position last year. I think coming next year, it's not foolish at all. If everybody sticks from here on and nobody else goes in the portal closes, I believe, on April 22nd, if you're a person who likes to mark your calendar, just for your reference. Let's see. Greg Manis says, less wear and tear on TKR, good, and better relief when he gets 2 in the first half. Well, that's one thing. That's one improvement I hope we see in TKR's game next year is not getting the foolish foul. Number one, he may not have to set as many high screens, because boy, do we know that TKR loves to move his feet on a high screen. So does every big man, if we're being real honest. But it makes Painter nuts. He talked about it in pressers. I'm sure it makes TKR nuts that they catch him. But he's kind of obvious when he does it. But if Purdue can move away from the foul 20 feet from the bucket on TKR, that'll be a good one. Also, maybe some of the frustration will go down a little bit. That's a big part of it. I think from what I'm seeing, the personality is going to be really, really good for this team. And I hope these guys start bonding pretty quickly. We'll see. We can't force any of that. Glenn Miller 151 says South Dakota State. So did I say South Dakota? I probably did. SDSU is correct. So if I misread, missaid, I apologize. And I apologize any is it Jackrabbit? Yeah, Jackrabbit fans out there. Welcome if you're here. Here, both San Diego, dag nabbit, both South Dakota State and Washington State fans alike, and even coaches, college fans, have been commenting on how much of a good one Purdue got and how much they liked him. I love seeing that. There were not many, there wasn't anybody saying good riddance. There were people saying, go get him. Good job, Oscar. Congratulations, that sort of thing. The fans are behind him, which is always a good thing from a morale standpoint. Good to see. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Derek Mulligan says, Boiler up. How do you think DJ fits? Is it just a 3-man rotation with DJ, Kluff, and TKR rotating? Feels like immediate solve to our rebounding woes. I think Burgess is still going to be important, but I do think, Burgess will spell TKR a little bit. I think you're going to see more. Burgess needs to grow into his role. We saw that. Needs to work on a few things to really spell TKR. Remember, this is it for Smith, Lawyer, and TKR. They're seniors now. So the road to being a starter, having a bigger role next year is really not far away. I know kids that are young sometimes get caught up in that, but I think Burgess will have an important role. I think Jacobson will have an important role. But I think the Jacobson and Kluff will be a two-headed monster is what I think. So I know I answered it probably after you typed that, but yeah, Dan says the boiler sphere is buzzing. I agree. People are very excited about this, as they should be. This is a very good get for Purdue. Again, there are some narratives on Twitter and other places in social media that are just flat out wrong. One of them is Purdue has no money, doesn't spend anything in the portal. No, Purdue handles it quietly. Purdue's players are told to handle it quietly, and they get guys in the program that generally don't go and spout off. I think that's one of the really good things about the Purdue culture. If we're going to talk about culture in the athletic department, that starts at the top with Babinski, continues with Painter. I think Odom's going to fit in perfectly with that idea that, hey, we handle internal things internally, right? And then when we get them done, no big deal, we move on. Business is business, handle the business and move on. If you don't work in the place, we help you find a way, an exit out. I don't think Purdue tries to hold on to guys that don't belong there. I don't think there's any lying to people about playing time or a role that they don't have. I don't think Paint does that. I think he's extremely honest. I think Barry Odom will be the same way. And I know Mike Babinski has been very straight up with people. I know some people get annoyed with it sometimes, that it feel like there's not enough information out there. And I can understand why you get bothered by that. But yeah, Purdue handled its business here with Oscar Cluff. John Younger says Arvidas was much better passer. Yeah, Arvidas was a generational player. Arvidas Sabonis, that's DeMontis' dad. If I say that right, if I say that wrong, I apologize. I'm not a big modern NBA fan. But yeah, Arvidas was a generational player. He could shoot, he could pass, and he moved really interestingly. And I'm telling you, like, the way he shot the ball was cool. But yeah, I think that's fair. Whenever you make a comparison with a Hall of Fame type player, and I don't know if Arvidas is, I don't think he's in the NBA Hall of Fame, but he's one of the best players coming from, it was Russia, right? Soviet Union. He's truly a great player, but he was creative. So it's easy for me to point at a guy like that because I don't know a lot about a lot of guys that come out of Europe and go into Vlade Divac. How about that? That's a good comparison. Vlade Divac when he's playing really well. The problem is Vlade Divac also played like a dog at times. So I don't want to bring that one in there. But Divac has some creativity in his game, his big man game. So let's see. Big Time Boiler says, Grant says, media talking about Purdue being #1 preseason. Exactly what I was talking about. Not surprised. Now is the time to go get another impact player, hopefully a wing. Yes. I think it'd be great if Purdue had you and I have actually talked about this quite a bit, but a slasher, an athletic guy who can beat somebody off the bounce. That's one thing that I think that a lot of Purdue fans hoped Colvin would have, is the ability to beat guys on the dribble. His athleticism, like I said, incredible. His potential is incredible. We don't get to see him reach his full potential as a college player, which that sucks for me. Maybe that's one thing Purdue can go get in the portal. Something to think about, and I've explained this a couple times. The scholarship expansion makes it a 15-person roster next year. The really weird thing is walk-ons and scholarship players are viewed the same way as by the NCAA. So that means if you only give a kid a walk-on position, a walk-on role, like first little brother, right? That counts against your 15, okay? So if he doesn't get the scholarship, but he's on the roster, that counts against your 15. Right now, Purdue has, I believe, if my math is correct, six spots available on the roster. And that'll include walk-ons and schollies. Will Purdue give every walk-on a scholarship? I don't think they'll do that because I don't think that works. It doesn't make much sense. A lot of those guys weren't invited to be on the team in that role, but I think Painter really values those guys. And I don't think Purdue's going to go out and steal a couple guys. When I say steal, I mean guys that weren't leaning towards Purdue out of high school that all of a sudden are just going to sign with Purdue. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Paint works that way. I've seen it once or twice where Paint added a guy or two because he needed somebody on the roster. I'm not going to get into who they were. It didn't go well, though. Generally, just throwing a guy into that class does not generally go well for Painter. He's very good at being slow and methodical in his talent assessment. So, but Purdue has 6 more guys, including the players that we already know are on the roster and in the scholarship, and the guys that have already jumped into the portal. All right. Greg Manis says, how about the way back? Look at Amici from Penn State. His stats, 93, 94. Kluff along those lines. That's a good comparison. Was his name, what's his first name? Can't remember his first name. Yeah, Amici was an interesting guy. He was a Brit, I think, if I remember correctly. Because he was one of those guys. He's a big, strong guy. One of those players, high shoulders, very long wingspan. That's a good reference. He was a very good player too, and I think he was all conference type of guy out of Penn State. Yeah, he was a menace. I agree, Greg. Mike B says, seeing how they work together will decide the rotation. You're correct. That's absolutely true. Who knows? Maybe Kluff can handle the ball and he moves Smith out of the starting role. All jokes. But no, this is the biggest thing. The chemistry is going to matter. How these players play off each other is going to matter. But Paint will mess around a little with this starting lineup from November to January. He will. Once he gets it locked in, I think he'll hold on to it. But he will mess around a little bit. That core of 3, they will be where they are. They're not going to be supplanted. There's no doubt about that. Greg Manis says that's a nice thing about summer exhibition, early non-con, lots of chance to see what works well together. Yeah, Purdue does not go to Europe this year. The NCAA keeps there's a rule that you can only go tour Europe once every 4 years. I think they can do something else, and I don't know what Purdue has planned in the summer. If you don't go to Europe, you can do another thing with the team. There's lots of time, though, to get exhibition-type basketball in so this team can learn about each other, travel with each other, get to know each other, that sort of thing. Figure out who's cheap, who buys meals, who's the guy that can never find his wallet when you're at checkout, that type of thing, so I can make fun of each other. That's the type of thing you learn. Let's see. Greg Manis says, bacon in the oven, underrated. Absolutely. It gets just as crispy. You don't have to deal with the mess afterwards. The mess on the stove is horrible. And I'll be honest, I can't control the popping sometimes of bacon when I cook on the stove. Get disfigured by a burn. That's not fun. Ted Berkey, long time no talk. He says, good morning, in a meeting, so I will listen later, but lost minutes from a position of strength and added them in a position of weakness. Overall, better roster construction. I tend to agree. That's a very good statement. It's a smart statement, meaning, okay, you lose a guy who played minutes, who was important, but there's another guy there that we already know plays that position. That's good. And then you gain minutes in a place where Purdue desperately needed a guy that could rebound, could enforce underneath. Very, very, if you're going to, like I said, if you're going to look at like a trade in the NBA, 3 players for this one, it's not a ridiculous looking trade. If you'd say you had a guy that started at center for a very short time, a wing, and a shooting guard, a long shooting guard for this one part that everybody said was really important. Purdue got a really good trade if we look at it that way. It's not a trade, but if you want to use your NBA terms, We can go there. It's not a trade. Mike B says Purdue finished ranked. And with the record that I thought they would be going in, told everyone we weren't a top 10 team. Totally with you. When we were ranked there, I was told I was too negative when I said Purdue was 15 to 18. A lot of people here in the comments said I was too negative. A lot of people also said I was too negative with my assessment of Houston. I think my assessment of Houston played out pretty well. I think it took one of Purdue's best games of the year to go toe to toe with them, and they could not get over the hump. Houston's a really good team. Houston's path has been really difficult in the NCAA tournament too. JL says Painter is going all in for a big run in 26. Heidi making a big jump as a contributor as the wing to complement the guards in the post could be massive. If we can see a confident Cam Heidi all season, I mean, it's this simple. His confidence, what's between his ears, what's in his chest, whatever, his confidence is such a difference maker for Purdue. And when I say difference maker, I think it's a 3 to 5 win difference this year. I think if he could have, and I don't think it was an issue of trying. He was busting his ass. He just couldn't get his mind right? He couldn't tell himself, you can shoot this ball. But we saw the confident Cam Heidi at the end of the season, and goodness gracious, that dude is a potential monster. He absolutely is. So I agree with that assessment. Very, very good. Mike B says if DJ had stayed healthy, they might have overachieved as well. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of things that didn't really go Purdue's way. If we go back to the late summer, a lot did not go this team's way. You lose Catchings, which was going to be part of the rotation right away. He had a problem because I think, wasn't guaranteed a starting role or more minutes. Painter wasn't going to do that. Then he went to BYU, and guess what? Didn't get a starting role in all that many minutes. At the end of the season, he finished hurt. So he heads to greener pastures after a year at BYU. So you lose Catchings, right? You lose Jacobson early. This stuff matters. And there's one other, right? There's one other. What am I thinking? I'm missing one other. So, but things did not go Purdue's way. That's all I can say. And from a developmental standpoint, a lot of guys, it took them a little bit longer. I keep saying that, but you can't control that. So yeah, it was a tough roster because of that. Incomplete roster. I think it looks pretty complete right now. I don't know what that means. Yeah. What MTE is Purdue in next season? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think they're in Maui. I don't think it's that big, but I don't know what it is. Sorry. And it's funny, Chris Foreman on Twitter and I interacted. He said one of the things he really dislikes about there's a preseason tournament that's been elevated to 32 teams. I think that could be a really fun event. And the cool thing about that event, you've got the NIL. If you don't like the NIL, fine. My brother said he hated this event idea. The NIL's here though. Right? Guys are going to get paid for doing their job or get paid for maybe doing a job later, which was supposed to be against the rules. And it turned out the court found it wasn't within the rules. So much poor design by the NCAA. But this preseason tournament actually pays bonuses to players, easy for me to say, for winning or getting to the Final Four in this event. And I think that's the right way to do NIL, where guys are motivated to do more and earn more money. They actually earn the money. It wasn't given to them based on potential. It's right here, right now, you earn that extra NIL. I think that's how bowls should be settled too. I talked about that months ago, but I think the bowls should be NIL incentive laden. It won't be enough to keep some guys from going and opting out, but it'll at least make them think twice, I think. And you saw this year a little bit pushback on that idea of everybody opting out in the bowls, which is really a positive. You saw guys saying, I'm going to stay and play with my teammates. And that sentiment right there, I'm going to stay, play with my teammates. I'm going to stay and keep the cohesiveness. I really like being around these guys. That philosophy, man, we need more of that in college sports. That's part of the secret sauce that makes college basketball, college football great. And I know everybody's cheering on these kids to go get their money. I understand that. But the cohesiveness, teamwork, the brotherhood is something that a lot of guys will never experience again at the level they do in college. Even guys that go and play pro. And I've heard so many of them lament that, man, that was special. That locker room was special. That part is discounted. And it's a shame. It's also a shame when you say, okay, I'm going to go get mine, go get a bag, whatever you want to say, and you turn your back on already getting a significant amount of money at this place to go get a raise, and you don't have any chemistry of that place. How many examples of bad NIL deals and poorly constructed rosters did we see this last year in college basketball? Countless, right? You don't have to go far to see ones that were very disappointing. Head to Southern Indiana and look for one that was very disappointing, and they spent a ton of money. Do you think Ballo would go back to Arizona if he had another chance? I don't know. I know he was getting paid well at Arizona, but not as well as he did in Bloomington. Do you think he'd think about it twice? I don't know. I don't know. It's something to think about, though. It all comes down, again, I keep saying this, the counsel, what motivates people, what their personal situation. If you're going to dig yourself out of poverty, I mean this, go get the money. That to me is the thing. Like, no one's going to tell somebody not to make a living. But if you're already doing pretty well, which most of these guys leave a pretty good NIL deal to go get another NIL deal, and they lose all the stuff that makes that team special, I think it's short-sighted. But I'm old. What do I know? Let's see. South Haven Boiler says Kluff and Heidi should own the boards when on the floor together. Heidi found out, one of you guys said his superpower this year, about 2/3 of the way through the season, in that he became an absolute dog on the boards at times. At times. Now, if he can do that every game, and you have Kluff doing that, and you have Smith getting the long boards, holy crap. That's all of a sudden a team that is deadly on the glass. Completely different look Purdue team, right? So that could be a ton of fun, and I hope it happens. Craig Maccabee's here. Devin's uncle. Good to see you. Glad you're here. And by the way, hat tip to his nephew. He's one of those guys who did what I just said. It is a throwback. It's old school. It's countercultural for a guy to say, you know what? I'm not going to go and grab the big brass ring. I'm going to stay here because this is where home is, and this is where my favorite things in the world are, and this is my team. And Purdue has a great leader because of it, a guy who could have gone a lot of places. So that's awesome. It's incredible, and I appreciate that more than I can say. Not just for Purdue, but really, honestly, if I'm being real honest, the health of college sports, which I absolutely love, depend on some guys staying for their entire career. So you can read into that however you'd like on that statement. But fun getting together with everybody. I did not call it a quick cast, and as it turns out, it was not quick. It's almost an hour long. Appreciate everybody tuning in live and everybody tuning in on delay. Purdue got their guy in Oscar Cluff, and Purdue has a couple guys leaving, which kind of sucks. Let's see, I got a couple more here. Yeah, agree completely. That's a good idea. Nate Dolans, I think he asked me this on Twitter too. I think it was you, Nate. Says Oscar welcome party at AJ's. I don't have that planned. I haven't talked to Adam about that, so I don't know if I'm going to have an Oscar welcome party at AJ's. But I am probably going to go to AJ's in the next few weeks to sample some of the delicious vittles. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. It's a weird schedule. Thanks. Great to see Greg McManus again, even if he is a fair weather guy, and that's just the way he is. Still great to see him. And yeah, we still got beef, Greg and I, in case you're wondering. So God bless you. Hammer down. Have a great day. Enjoy your work day. And enjoy the improving weather. It's getting better. God bless you. We'll see you soon.